You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Elisabeth Kristof. How to rewire your attachment style and stop reacting like you're cray. Welcome, ladies, to Life Check Yourself. My guest today is so amazing that I got to talk to her twice, which is a funny story. And you are going to love Elisabeth Kristof. She is an expert in using applied neurology to move people out of pain, unwanted behavior. Do you have any of those? And your stress response. She is the founder of Brain-Based Wellness. And this is super cool. It's an online platform that trains your nervous system and body to resolve old patterns, improve your performance, and increase your well-being. She is a certified applied neurology practitioner. She's been doing this so long, since 2007. She works with all sorts of high-performing people, entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders. She helps you improve resilience, manage stress, and regulate your damn emotions through science-based training so you're not a crazy-ass mess. And she's going to talk about dating and regulating your nervous system and attachment styles. And I'm super excited that we got to do this a second time. We recorded this amazing interview, and then the technology gods made it sound like so
it's the worst.
I'm glad that I'm so glad that you agreed to do this again. So let's just talk a little bit about the idea of like a healthy nervous system. Because I think I was just on a river trip rafting, and I was with so many high performing people. If you're listening, high performing people, but all of them were talking about like anxiety, stress, like living that life where it just feels like you're constantly activated. Exercise and adventure and working out is a great way that you can, try to regulate your nervous system. It seems to me, though, that that's not a long-term sustainable approach. And I love what you do because you teach people how to create new neural pathways so that you can have what you want and have more joy and peace. So set us up. Talk us through how that all works.
Yeah, I think it's very normal and natural for us to experience stress, and we're not aiming to stay perfectly even keel all the time. And you want to do things, you want to push your life, try to expand, or be a high achieving person. The problem comes when we get stuck in states of stress, chronic stress for a long period of time, and we get stuck in threat responses like fight, like flee, or freeze. And so our nervous system is pumping out all of these hormones all of the time to get us to take action, like adrenaline and cortisol, that are meant for short-term solutions to dealing with the stress in the short term. But when that happens for a long period of time, that causes problems with your body and your system. It causes inflammation. It causes dysregulation to your immune system, and it puts your body in a really tense, over hypervigilant state all of the time. And our nervous system and our bodies have this deep intelligence, and they understand too much stress for too long is dangerous. It compromises the system. It causes disease. And so your brainstem, the survival part of your brain, will start to create outputs to try to get you to become more regulated again, or to reduce the amount of stimulus coming in because it's overtaxed. And those outputs could look like anything from migraine to pain. Those are great ways for your brain to get you to shut down, to interact with the world less, to take smaller steps, to work out with less intensity, maybe even go lay down in the bed and pull the covers over your head. Or it could look like binge eating to re-regulate your nervous system, or drinking alcohol, or cannabis use or all these things that maybe don't serve our long-term goals. But in that moment, it helps our system reduce the amount of stress, reduce the amount of stimulus coming in, and stay safe in that moment. And so these high-performing people who are living under stress all the time, that is not sustainable forever without moving into protective outputs of your brain and your nervous system, whether that shows up in your behavior or it shows up as pain, migraine, dissociation in your body.
I think this is really interesting. One thing that I didn't hear you say, and I want to just double check to see if this is a way that people also cope with this overactive system is anger part of that, like lashing out or pushing people away? Is that a behavior? Like, is that sort of like the way sometimes that people try and get back to regulation, or no?
Well, that is really part of, it's kind of multi-layered. Anger is complex because anger is an emotion that can sometimes tell us that sometimes it's something that we need, right? It tells us that something is out of alignment, or that that a boundary is being violated, or that we are in danger and we need to protect ourselves. So there's a real value in the emotion of anger and in expressing anger. But when we're really emotionally reactive, really volatile, a lot of times what that is actually a stress response. So we have these different protective mechanisms. Some people call them trauma responses or threat responses or stress responses, which is fight, flight, freeze, and then there's fawn also. And so what our brain does when it's activated into threat, it's going to choose the response that it feels has been best at protecting you in a situation that's similar. So you might get triggered and you might find yourself really angry and emotionally reactive. That would be because your brain has pushed into fight response. You might find that you want to run away and just flee the situation. I just got to get out of here. I can't stay. I can't be around this person anymore. I just need to go. That's your flight response kicking in. You might find that you start people pleasing and really placating the person and violating your own boundaries. And that's fawn response, when we start to compromise ourselves because we feel like maintaining that social connection is going to ensure our survival at some level and keep us safe. And then there's freeze, when you find I can't even speak at all. I can barely move. All of a sudden I just can't take action in this moment. And all of those are different responses to the same thing that's happening in your brain and in your nervous system. Your amygdala has gotten triggered. That's your fear center. And then it sends a signal to your hypothalamus and you start pumping out those stress hormones. And then our body will go into one of those responses usually. And the behavior could look like however our brain feels like is going to be the best protective response for you in that situation because of your past and what you've learned.
Oh my God, this is so brilliant. You're so smart. You're so smart. So let's then say that it makes perfect sense that if someone is in a relationship or they're dating and they feel really emotionally unsafe or frustrated or rejected or any of those experiences of feelings from the stressors that are associated with putting ourselves out there, basically, or being in love or being in partnership, it makes sense why like people will do those behaviors, even particularly to dating, like run away, stop talking to someone, like delete the apps, just not say anything, people please, placate. So it just seems like if you drop all these things into the scenario of partnership or dating, it's like fraught with opportunities to be stressed or to go into these reactions.
Absolutely. And it's really important to remember that these reactions are reflexive. They're not something that you cognitively think about doing. It happens at the level of your limbic system, which is your emotional center, and your brainstem, your old brain, which is your survival brain. And that's always going to trump our higher order thinking systems. And it's not like something happens and you have time to rationally evaluate it and then decide how you're going to respond. These are reflexive responses. And the more we've been engaged in them, especially if like during our development, we were pushed into these stress responses a lot, the more likely they are to be triggered in our life, and especially in partnerships, especially in intimate situations, that reminds us of those love bonds with our caregivers. And it will happen before we even know it.
Yeah, I think what you just said, I really want people to like tune in, people. You said it's like unconscious. And I think that one of the things I hear the most are stories about having an awareness of where those unhealthy love bonds were formed, or an awareness of a pattern, or someone might even say, oh yeah, I'm the fawn, or I'm flea, or it depends. And that being said, so what if you know it? Because if you're not actually working at the level of your limbic system, then it's just information. Like you can have self-compassion and you can be aware of it. It sounds like unless we are really managing at the root core level, we're not going to be able to shift it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, is that awareness will do very little because it doesn't live in the cognitive part of our brain. It doesn't live in our prefrontal cortex. And so in order to change the behavior, and it can feel so frustrating when you can't, in
Yep.
order to change the behavior, what we really have to do is develop a process of making our nervous system stronger and more resilient, and cultivating a felt sense of safety inside of ourselves through intentional stimulus with the nervous system. And that's a lot of what I do on the site, is healing the deficits in my clients' unique nervous system so that they're under less stress on a second by second basis. They breathe better, they see better, they balance better, they know where their body is in space. And so now all of a sudden they have so much more bandwidth to handle the stress of dating, to handle work stress, financial stress, pandemic stress, without moving into those protective outputs and without moving into those protective responses. If overall your nervous system is more resilient and functioning better all of the time. And then to also have tools for self-regulation, stimulus that your brain and your body respond really well to, that one can help you create a felt sense of safety inside of yourself so that you're not walking into a situation already feeling like you're under threat. It's scary to go on a date, to meet someone new, to have a difficult conversation with your partner. But if you can regulate yourself first, then all of a sudden you can, stop the racing heart and the sweaty palms and the tension in your throat, and you feel safer inside of your own body. You go into that situation differently, and then you experience a different outcome. So having the tools to regulate yourself before and after these threatening events eventually start to change the trigger, and you get less triggered over time because you've been teaching your body and your nervous system to be different.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think the highlighted word is like an internalized felt sense of safety. Mm-hmm. Because that's where our agency comes in, right? Like if we can create that in all different situations, then we feel empowered, which create a confidence and, being able to really be who we are, right? Like instead of like walking around living sort of from a place of fear. So tell me, before we talk about how we do this, is there a parallel or a connection? Because people are always coming to me and they're like, here's my attachment style. Everyone knows that's part of like, the 411 on like, here's my shit, here's my issue, here's what I know about myself. How is there a connection? And if so, what do we need to know about that so we can start to get into regulation, self-regulation?
Yeah, there's definitely a connection, because all of our attachment styles are really survival driven, right? Everything, really, all of our behavior, all of our outputs are our brain's best bet to get the stimulus that it needs to either stay regulated or to stay activated healthy and functioning well. And so that part of our brain, our survival brain, is driving everything. And so the way that we feel in relationship and in attachment, whether that's, if we get anxious when we feel like we're losing the love bond, or we get avoidant and we want to run away and flee, or we want so much space, that's all because of how our nervous system and our body feel in relationship. And it's probably based on the things that happened in our development, but what I'm looking at is really physiological. What happens inside of your body when you experience these things, when you hear a change in your loved one's voice and interpret that as threat, or when you feel that someone's invading your personal space and you start to get triggered, and how can we change that inside of your body? And really all of that behavior change rests on creating safety inside of your own body and nervous system, and having a baseline of safety that that you can get back to, so that you can start to really actually rewire that attachment style. Neuroplasticity teaches us that we're changing all of the time. Our brain and our nervous system is changing constantly, and it doesn't stop changing until we die. So there's always the opportunity for change, and it responds to the stimulus that we put in. So we have agency over the stimulus that's coming into our nervous system and into the felt sense inside of our body that creates. And we just need the right tools to create that. And then we can be different. Then we can react different. Your attachment style doesn't have to stay that way forever just because it's right there right now.
I wish I had like a bell, like every time I interview someone who says like your attachment style is not permanent, like ding, 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 ding. Because I think that there's some mythology around that, right? Like, this is the way it is. You need to do this. You need to you need to be able to express that so that you can work with that. And it's just, I love that you're just saying like, no, you need to deal with the physiology and take advantage of the neuroplasticity of your brain and actually do the work that matters. So let's talk a little bit about like, what does a healthy nervous system look like? What is a regulated, like it goes in for regular maintenance. It's in tip-top condition, no matter, mint condition, no matter how old it is. What does that look like?
That's a great question. And it's true that sometimes we know so much more about like our cars and our electronics than we really know about our own operating system,
right,
which is our nervous system, right? So what does it even look like to have a well-functioning operating system? And a well-functioning nervous system is able to modulate, able to change from different states pretty easily. We're not looking to flatline. We're not looking to stay regulated all the time, because that's not realistic. We live in a society that dysregulates us. We're going to have things come up that dysregulate us. But a well-functioning nervous system takes in information and is able to take in good quality information through all of the different input systems, like your eyes, like the balance system in your inner ear, like your body mapping system, and take that information in with accuracy and then interpret it with accuracy so that you're perceiving the right amount of threat for what it is that's really going on, right? So if our nervous system has problems with any of these input systems, or if it has an interpretation problem, you might perceive way too much threat for something that's not really threatening, that's not really life-threatening. And then the response doesn't match that, right? So a well-functioning nervous system can take in good quality information, it can interpret it with accuracy, and it can produce an output that is appropriate for that. And so sometimes we do want to be activated, right? If we're going to go work out, if there's a situation where we need to take action, where we need to run, where we need to lift something heavy, we want a nervous system that can create force through our body and get our blood flowing to our limbs and increase our heart rate and our respiration. We need to be able to go there. It's part of being alive. We also want a nervous system that can come down out of that state and re-regulate, rest, digest, recover from that state. And so a healthy nervous system gives the appropriate amount of activation and then is able to come down out of that state and to be able to flow between those states pretty easily. And when we get dysregulation in the nervous system, that's when we stay stuck in that state of chronic stress. We get into that heightened level of arousal and we can't quite get out of it ever. We always are carrying that muscle tension. We get digestive problems because our blood is never going to our organs because we're always prepared to run or to fight or to flee. We have respiration issues because we're hyperventilating. We're taking too many breaths per minute. And so all of these things come when we're staying stuck in that chronic stress state. Or again, when our brain is misinterpreting what's going on around us, it's not getting accurate information in, and it's producing a response that is not appropriate for the situation.
That is so amazing. And it makes sense. I was just talking to a client today about what does life look like when it feels like you don't have to recover all the time? And the way you're describing the healthy nervous system, I was like, and right, like when you are able to manage and regulate, then you don't need to like come home, turn on the TV while you're scrolling, while you're binging on ice cream just to like regulate. Or spend the weekend doing that, right? Because there aren't these highs and lows where we have to sort of like shut down to regroup.
Yeah, when we're stuck in that high stress state, our brain will do what it needs to do to get us to come down out of it again, so that we don't stay in that state and end up with autoimmune or inflammation or pain. So our brain will drive us to behaviors that help us to regulate. And a great way to calm the nervous system down, to move into rest and digest, and to give your vagus nerve and some other important parts of your interoceptive system stimulus is to eat a bunch of food. And so our brain knows, hey, I can come down out of this state if I eat a bunch of food. So yeah, you're going to sit on the couch and do that, or you're going to self-soothe by scrolling on social media, or you're going to drink more alcohol than you would like. And these are all ways that your brain has found to help you regulate and calm down, even though they're maybe not aligned with your long-term goals. In the moment, that's bringing you closer to safety.
You know, when you're talking, or I don't know how old you are. You look super young, but you're wise. But do you remember
40.
that ad? You're 40. Okay. What do you remember that ad was like? This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Do you remember that? Okay. I'm getting this picture of like, you know, this is your nervous system. This is your nervous system. Like in 2022, like if you don't fucking take care of it, you know, and then you're just like a mess, you know, and it's like, this is your nervous system. It's dysregulated. So by the way, if you're all like Googling Elisabeth already, because you're like, holy shit, I need to do this. The link to her website, brainbasedwellness.com, free subscription is in the show notes. So just chill yourselves. I know you're excited. And I'm going to ask her right now what I know you want to know, which is like, how can we start? Is there like a little baby step that we can begin to dip our toe into self-regulation?
Yeah. So what I practice is applied neurology, which most people haven't heard of. And so I'll give you a little rundown on that. And applied neurology is basically just taking the latest in brain science and making it into really practical, actionable exercises that you can do on a daily basis to give your nervous system stimulus that it needs and move it in the right direction. It's like a nervous system hygiene practice or a little mini workout for your nervous system so that we're taking care of our operating system and giving it good stimulus. And so everybody has different parts of their nervous system that need to be stimulated because we're all really unique, and our unique neuromatrix has different parts that have deficits, but there are a few drills that I find are generally pretty high payoff for a large number of people. So I'll walk you through how to just do one simple drill and see if people can feel the difference for themselves. So we always want to assess and reassess first, because again, everybody's different, and change at the level of the nervous system is instant. So if you get a negative response, that means that this is not stimulus for you right now that your nervous system wants. Don't do this drill. If you get a positive response, this is good stimulus and it's something you could do to help yourself regulate. So we're going to just test a range of motion. So maybe just turn your head side to side and see how far you can see out of the corner of your eye, and maybe rate how much tension you have in your neck. And then we're going to sit up nice and tall, take a deep breath in, take a nice, long, slow exhale. We're going to take your tongue over your teeth, but under your lips, and make some big circles with the tongue, just circling it around your mouth and trying to go a little bit further back each time, trying to touch like a further back molar. Mouth stays
Mm.
closed. Good. And we're giving the vagus nerve some stimulus. I know it feels kind of silly. And then
It
we'll go
feels
the
like
other
also,
direction.
I'm like, oh, and I can see if I have anything in my teeth on the way around.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very relaxing. Okay, keep going. Tell me some more. So
Now just go ahead and go the other direction. And as you're doing it, just make sure you're still taking nice, long, slow exhales, tall posture, shoulders relaxed. And then we'll relax. We'll take a breath in. We'll take one more nice, long, slow exhale. And then reassess the range of motion of your neck.
oh my God, it totally works, people. You could see me and Elisabeth right now on video.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and test at home. And if our range of motion gets better, so change at the level of the nervous system is systemic, so it'll change everywhere. So if your range of motion is better, that means that that's stimulus that your brain and your nervous system like. If it's less, if you feel more pain, more tension, then something about that was threatening to your nervous system. And for today, that's just not your drill. So what you want to do eventually is find a couple high payoff drills. And I teach a few more drills in that video series that's going to be linked to in your show notes that people can practice. And then keep them in your back pocket. And when you're about to go do something that's scary, take a few minutes. It doesn't need to take more than 3 to 5 minutes, and give yourself some positive stimulus to help your nervous system regulate. Then go do the stressful thing. And then afterwards, re-regulate, do some more high payoff drills, or do something to discharge the stress, like take a walk or shake around or play some loud music and dance. Do something that helps your body move the stress through. Stomp your feet. That's a big part of discharging the stress response. So regulate beforehand with some neuro drills so that you go into the situation calmer, more present, more your higher self. And then after the situation, do more drills or do something to discharge the stress that's been built up through whatever you're doing. And the more you do that, the more you're able to stay regulated in stressful situations.
so is there, so is this like, weight training where you start to have like a muscle strength? Like, does your nervous system start to build up credits, regulation?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the more we stay regulated, the more that becomes our new baseline default place to be, right? We're creating that new state of being inside of our body over and over and over again, multiple times throughout the day. And that becomes our new baseline rather than that high stress state. And the way it goes with neuro work is in the beginning, it often people can't do a lot at once because they're already dysregulated and they can't handle a lot of stimulus. Mm-hmm. But the more you do it, the more exponential the gains are because your brain and your nervous system can handle a lot more stimulus and you can do more complex drills. You can stack the drills to give yourself a bunch of stimulus and you can really advance out of behavior. So at first it can be a little bit slower and more gradual and it kind of in a minimum effective dose and feel like, I want to be better right now. And you have to give yourself a little bit of time. And then all of a sudden, very quickly, you will find you're responding different to different situations. You can handle more stress. You can handle more stimulus. And you just start to be a little bit different. I have so many clients that come to me and say, like, I thought this was just my personality. Like, right. I thought this was just who I was. And it's just the way I was wired. And it's like, well, it is the way you were wired, but we can change that and rewire it. And it's not really your personality. It's just your stress responses. And so you'll find that starts to change quickly over time, but you have to build that baseline first.
I think this is really important because most people think about solving the symptom, right? Rather than going in and handling the real problem, right? So it's like, oh, well, I'm going to make a rule that I'm not going to eat after 7, or I'm just going to stop dating. Fuck men, or I'm just never going to ask my partner for, anything around, travel because every time we get in an argument. So I'm just not going to have those conversations. And if and that just makes your life really small. And also you're still going to get stressed and pissed off, right? Or sad, or you're going to go into response. So what I really want everyone to hear is that you need to really define the real problem, which is that you don't have an ability to self-regulate and your body doesn't know how to do that. And you can do a million things and read a million things and talk to a million different people. It's not going to get to the core problem. And so this, Elisabeth, is the solution. It sounds like to me.
It really does impact change at a very deep core level. And just like you said, it sucks when we have to change our life because we think our capacity is so limited and we lose some of the human experience, right? If we're living in dissociation all the time, if we're disconnected from our bodies, unable to be present with people, we don't get to feel what it is to be human, feel embodied. And so at a very deep level, this changes your lived experience when you change how your nervous system functions.
Oh, I love it. It's like, it makes me I feel like more relaxed just hearing about it.
It's always good to have that effect on people.
Yeah, right. You're like, wait, I just have to do this. And also it's not like, you have to meditate and light a candle and, you have to light incense and, it takes 37 minutes and you have to do it for 112 days in a row. And so I just love this.
Yeah, this change is it's very short tools to do. And I really like it to be stuff that people can weave through their real life, like when you're really in the moment of stress, something that you can step out and do. It's great to have a meditation practice. It's great to have a morning practice with your neuro drills. But what we really need is something to help ourselves in that moment so that we're reducing the stress as it's happening and discharging it after it happens.
Control the one damn thing you can control, and that's yourself. Ladies, if you want more, which you obviously do, is you want to go to brain-based-wellness.com/free-subscription, but that's a lot to remember. So just look on the show notes and click away and you can get started with Elisabeth. Elisabeth, thank you for coming on twice. I don't even know what we talked about.
Thank you for having me twice.
I don't know what we talked about last time, but this was really good. So I feel like it was exactly the way it was meant to be. So I appreciate it. Ladies, as I close every show, I always invite you to life check yourself. And today, neural check yourself as well. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.